They thought it was just another shift. Two strangers walk into a restaurant. One looks like he hasn't had a meal in days with worn clothes and tired eyes. The other, quiet, polite, but struggling to find her place. No one knows who they really are, or what they came to see. What the staff didn't know was that every move, every word, is being watched. And the truth? It was about to change everything. This isn't just a story about food or service. It's about character. The kind that shows when no one's expecting a spotlight. The kind that can't be hidden behind name tags or polite greetings. Welcome to Stories with Mr. Gray. If this is your first time here, I welcome you specially, and to my subscribers, thank you very much because your engagement has brought us this far, and to my new viewers, kindly subscribe, like, comment, and turn on the notification bell to get notified when we post an interesting stories like this. Meet Marcus, a man who built this restaurant from scratch. A man who started behind the counter, wiped the same tables, and worked double shifts so others wouldn't have to. Today, Marcus owns 4 restaurants in this city. But something has been bothering him lately. He's been hearing things. Small complaints from customers. Stories that didn't sit right. And one question kept coming back to him. Are my people treating others the way I treated them when I started? So he made a decision. He would walk through those doors again. But this time with no suit, no title, no recognition. And he wasn't coming alone. A young woman named Layla would be part of this too. She'd pose as a new hire, fresh, quiet, and easy to overlook. She wouldn't speak much, but she'd listen closely. Together, they were about to test more than service. They were about to test respect, loyalty, and the real culture behind the smiles. Because sometimes, the real story isn't told by what people say, but by how they treat those they think don't matter. Marcus didn't want this to feel like a trap. He wanted it to feel real because that's the only way people show who they are. So he planned it carefully. No cameras in sight, no scripts, no stage. He would walk in dressed in torn jeans, a faded jacket, and worn-out shoes. His beard was left untouched. His hands were covered in dust. To anyone watching, he just looked like a man who lost his way. Maybe someone begging. Maybe someone people choose to ignore. But there was one more piece to this puzzle. Her name was Layla. Young, quiet, soft-spoken. To most, she would look like someone unsure of herself, maybe even out of place. Marcus met her a few weeks earlier. She wasn't an actress. She was a real person. Someone who had faced rejection just for speaking differently. She knew what it meant to be overlooked. And that's exactly why he picked her. Layla's role was simple: come in as a new hire. No grand introduction. No special treatment. She would carry the trays, wipe the tables, and follow instructions. But she wouldn't just be working. She'd be watching too. Because where Marcus would test how they treat a man with nothing, Layla would test how they treat someone trying to earn something. 2 different people. 2 different tests. One silent mission. To find out if kindness only shows up when it's easy. Or if respect still exists, even when no one's watching. What neither of them knew was just how revealing this day would be. Because in a place filled with smiles and service, some truths can't stay hidden forever. It was just before lunch hour when Marcus walked in. Head down, shoulders slightly hunched. He moved slowly, not for effect, but to feel the weight of what others carry every day. He stepped through the front door, and the first thing he noticed wasn't the smell of food. It was the silence. The hostess at the front glanced at him, then looked away. No, hello. No, can I help you? Nothing. She leaned toward another staff member and whispered. They both glanced at him, then chuckled under their breath. Marcus stood still for a moment. He wasn't looking for pity. He was watching every detail. A few customers turned to look. One couple frowned. And just a few feet away, a manager stepped out from behind the counter. His eyes locked onto Marcus, not with curiosity, but with judgment. He walked over quickly. Sir, you can't stay here, he said, his voice flat, almost rehearsed. We're a business, not a shelter. Marcus didn't say a word. He just nodded and turned toward a corner seat by the window. He wasn't causing trouble. He wasn't begging. He just sat, quietly, observing. The manager stood there for a second, confused, then walked back, muttering something under his breath as he went. Moments later, a server approached. No greeting, no eye contact, just a cold, dismissive tone. "You need to order something, or you'll have to leave." Marcus looked up slowly. "I will," he said softly. "Just need a minute." The server rolled his eyes and walked off. And just like that, the tone was set. The restaurant was full of smiles for the paying guests. But for Marcus, there was no kindness, no service, no respect. And upstairs, watching through a private feed, Layla saw it all. She hadn't even stepped onto the floor yet. But already, the story had begun. 10 minutes passed. No one came back to the table. No menu. No water. Nothing. Marcus sat quietly watching. A table beside him had just been seated. Within seconds, 2 servers greeted them with smiles, pouring water, taking orders. He glanced around. Another table, same service, same energy. Except for him. Finally, a different staff member passed by. Marcus raised his hand slightly, just a small gesture. The staff member paused, then looked down at him. "You still here?" No kindness in his tone. No intention to help. Marcus nodded. "I'd like to place an order." The staff member smirked. "We're busy. Try waiting like everyone else." Then walked off. Upstairs, Layla clenched her hands. She just finished her orientation and was stepping into her role as a new staff member on the floor. No one knew who she really was either. But she could already feel the weight in the room, the tension, the judgments. Back downstairs, a group of employees near the counter started laughing. Marcus heard his name, not directly, but buried in a sarcastic tone. Wonder what the boss would say if he saw this place full of charity cases. Someone else chimed in. "Good thing he's not here. We'd all be out of a job." The irony cut deeper than the words. And then, the moment that changed everything. Marcus stood up and slowly walked toward the counter. The laughter stopped. Everyone turned. He asked again, this time calmly, firmly, directly. "I'd like to place an order." The manager came back, now annoyed. "You're making the guests uncomfortable," he said. "This isn't a soup kitchen." Marcus looked at him, steady, silent, calm, and walked back to his seat. He didn't shout. He didn't react. But what he felt in that moment was more than disappointment. It was confirmation. Confirmation that something had gone wrong. Right under his nose, just when it seemed like no one cared, someone noticed. His name was Jordan, a quiet busboy, barely 19. He kept to himself, always moving, always working, but he saw things others ignored. He'd watched the way Marcus was treated. He noticed the whispers, the looks, the way the other staff kept walking past. And while everyone else turned away, Jordan walked over. No big scene, no speech, just a simple question. "Sir, would you like a glass of water?" Marcus looked up, surprised, almost unsure how to respond. He nodded slowly. Jordan came back a minute later, carefully placing the glass in front of him. "I'm sorry about the wait," he said gently. "I'll try to get someone to take your order." He didn't say it loud. He didn't do it for credit. He did it because it was the right thing to do. And that moment mattered. Layla saw it too. From the other side of the floor, she watched Jordan. His body language, his tone, his respect. It was different. Meanwhile, the others were still laughing near the back. Jokes, eye rolls, side comments, none of it stopped. But Jordan kept working. And every time he passed Marcus's table, he checked in. Quietly, discreetly, without drawing attention. At one point, he even left a small piece of bread on the table. "It's from the extra basket," he said softly. "Just in case you're hungry." Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. It wasn't just kindness, it was dignity. Jordan didn't know who he was, but he treated him like a human being. And in that moment, one thing became clear. There was still hope in that restaurant. Not in the policies, not in the training manuals, but in people like Jordan, the ones who choose kindness even when no one's watching. Marcus stayed seated, quiet, still watching. By now, most of the staff had dismissed him completely. He wasn't causing trouble. He wasn't asking for anything. So they ignored him, as if he'd vanished into the background. But he was paying attention to every move, every word, every face. A couple at a nearby table waved for help. Their server glanced at them, then kept scrolling on her phone. An older gentleman politely asked for the restroom key. The cashier pointed without looking up. No warmth, no care, no pride in service. The restaurant looked polished from the outside, but inside, something had faded. The energy, the respect, the values he had built the place on, they were slipping away. Then came the conversation that shook him. Two waitstaff stood near the kitchen pass. One of them said, "Honestly, I only show up for the paycheck. Customers? I don't care." The other laughed. "Yeah. Fake a smile, grab a tip, clock out." Marcus felt the sting. He remembered working 14-hour shifts just to keep the place running. He remembered carrying dishes, mopping floors, welcoming every guest like they mattered. But here, it was all just routine. Smile if you have to, help only if it benefits you. Jordan passed by again, offering a brief nod. Still working, still serving, still doing it right. And then, something happened. A child accidentally dropped a glass. It shattered. Most staff flinched and walked away. But before anyone reacted, Jordan rushed over. He knelt beside the boy, reassured the parents, cleaned the mess. No orders. No one told him to. He just did it. Marcus watched closely. Jordan wasn't just a good employee. He was the heart of everything this restaurant used to be. And that's when Marcus made a decision. He wouldn't just observe anymore. It was time to raise the stakes. Time to see what happened when pressure built, when lines were crossed, and when choices had to be made in front of others. Because now, it wasn't just about disrespect. It was about accountability. And the next few hours would reveal everything. It was around 2 p.m. The lunch crowd was thinning out. But tension in the room was rising, and Marcus could feel it. A couple walked in, an elderly man and his wife. They looked around, unsure where to sit. No one greeted them. They waited. Two servers passed them. Neither said a word. Finally, the wife approached the counter. "Excuse me. Could we have a table, please?" The cashier didn't look up. "Sit wherever," she mumbled. The couple sat down quietly, glancing at each other, clearly uncomfortable. Marcus watched closely. These weren't demanding customers, just people hoping for kindness and getting none. A few minutes passed. Still no service. Marcus stood up. He walked to their table. "Would you like me to get someone for you?" he asked gently. The old man smiled, surprised. "That would be kind of you, son." Marcus nodded and walked toward the counter again. But this time his voice was louder. "Can someone take this table's order?" A server near the kitchen rolled his eyes. "You again." He turned to the others. "Can we get this guy out already?" The manager appeared again, annoyed and impatient. "That's it," he said firmly. "You've been sitting here for too long. We've asked you nicely. Now you're causing problems." Marcus stayed calm. "I'm just helping another guest," he replied. The manager didn't like that. "You don't work here. Stop pretending to. Leave now or I'll call security." Layla, now on the floor as a server, froze. She looked at Jordan. He looked confused, unsure what to do. The restaurant had just crossed a line. It wasn't just disrespect anymore. It was aggression. Public, loud, unjustified. Customers started noticing. Whispers filled the air. A few people pulled out their phones. And in that moment, Marcus knew it was time. No more watching. No more waiting. Because what had started as a quiet test was now a test of character exposed in full view of everyone. The room fell into silence. The manager had just threatened to call security on the man who built the place he was standing in. Marcus stood still for a moment, then slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. One tap, one message. Within seconds, a staff member from corporate walked through the door. Clean shirt, clipboard in hand, calm expression. He walked straight to the manager and whispered something in his ear. The manager froze. His face turned pale. He looked at Marcus again, this time, really looked. Marcus lifted his chin slightly. Still think I'm just here to cause problems? His voice was calm, but firm, steady, unshaken. Customers started whispering louder. Layla stepped forward too. She pulled off her name tag, walked beside Marcus, and spoke clearly. "This is Mr. Marcus Taylor, the owner of this restaurant." Gasps rippled across the floor. Some employees backed away. Others stood in shock, unable to speak. The manager looked down, hands trembling. But Marcus wasn't done. He turned to the staff, every one of them. "I walked in here today without a title, without a name tag, without a suit," he said. "And what I saw broke my heart." He paused, scanning the room. This place was built on respect, on care, on treating people like they matter, no matter what they look like, no matter how much they spend. He pointed toward Jordan. But only one person in this room remembered that. Jordan stood awkwardly, unsure how to react. Marcus walked toward him, shook his hand. "You didn't just serve tables today. You served character." The room was still. No excuses, no explanations, only truth, because the masks were off now. And for the first time in a long time, people saw who they really were. Marcus stood in silence for a moment, then turned back to the staff. "I didn't come here to humiliate anyone," he said. "I came here to see what this place had become, when no one's watching." He looked at the manager. "You forgot what leadership means. You forgot who we serve, and how we serve them." The manager looked down, ashamed, unable to respond. "You're relieved of your position," Marcus said firmly, "and effective immediately, your employment is terminated." A hush fell over the floor. He turned to the server who had mocked him earlier. "You don't belong in this team. You've forgotten how to treat people." Then he looked toward Jordan. "You," he said with warmth, "reminded me that this place still has a soul." Jordan looked stunned. "I'm promoting you today," Marcus continued. "You'll be trained as a floor supervisor, and you'll help me build a team that treats people the way you did." Jordan's eyes welled up. The staff clapped, slowly at first, then stronger. Even the customers joined in. Marcus turned to Layla. "And you, thank you. You did more than observe. You helped me see clearly." Then, to everyone, "This was never just a restaurant to me. It was a place where people felt seen, where dignity mattered more than appearance, where kindness wasn't a luxury, it was the standard." He looked around one last time. "Starting today, things change. And if you're here for the paycheck only, this won't be the place for you anymore." The restaurant was quiet again. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This time it carried weight, not from shame, but from realization. Some people left that day with a lesson. Some left with regret. And some left with a deeper understanding of what truly matters. Because this wasn't just about customer service. It wasn't about rules or routines. It was about how people treat others when they think it doesn't count. Marcus didn't need a title to see the truth. He only needed time, and a moment where no one knew who he was. And what he found was simple, but powerful. Respect should never depend on someone's clothes, accent, or paycheck. Kindness shouldn't be saved for those who look the part. And character always shows even when no one's watching. He didn't walk out of that restaurant angry. He walked out inspired. Because one person made a difference. And that was enough to rebuild from. And maybe, just maybe, someone watching this story today will remember that moment the next time they meet a stranger. Before you scroll away, ask yourself one question. How would you have treated him? Drop your answer in the comments. If the story made you think, if it made you feel something, if it reminded you that kindness still matters, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more truth. And sometimes, all it takes is one story to wake people up.